Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as always, we'll date stamp this. So this is year 3, blog 49, or in legacy numbers, blog 153, and it's dated the 26th of January 2025. And as always, I'll just look out the window and go, what I normally see, dull. However, I do have to think about others here, and I do know that since Friday, a lot of my friends and a lot of people in the United Kingdom have suffered with winds going over 100 miles an hour. And I know a number of my friends were affected by this. Fences, obviously, falling over, trees being damaged, even being uprooted and going across major roads. Absolutely terrible. And, you know, we hear all about the fires in California and everything else. And the bad news is that I've heard is that the storm that we've just had has another storm following it. But that's all in the news. We'll get to that then, shall we? Best way to do it, I think. But overall this week, good. More progression at work. I started to do some of the things that would progress to a report. That'll be the end of this month. So I did the weekly figures semi by myself. I got very little sort of like prodding or help. It was sort of like observed, and I was filling in the figures. That was great. All this week, you know, I was starting to look at other, what they call widgets, and looking in depth at the individual items under those widgets and trying to resolve them. So that helped with the figures at the end of the week. Unfortunately, we had a week where we had a lot of new equipment, which then needs to be added to the database, and that causes major issues, because if they don't fill them in correctly, that's our suppliers, we have to fill in things like the location, the assigned to, etc., etc. And the discovery tool indicates that a different person logged into it other than the person that it was assigned to. So you can imagine it's all of that sort of stuff. And that slows you down. And I start work. I'm supposed to start at 8 o'clock, but I'm up at 5:30 in the morning at the moment. All the sleep stuff that I've got a problem with. And by 9:30, I'm still cleansing the data. You know, because I've got to do VLOOKUPs, make sure that a business location is there, not a home location, and all of that sort of stuff. And with the amount of numbers that are coming in, one day there was 400 in the morning. I was still data cleansing up till 10:30 in the morning. So yeah, it's been a good week because I managed to keep my head above water. I wasn't treading water. I was actually making progress. So that's all pretty good. Home-wise, you know, I've still had the difficulties I have with my mother. Nothing drastic. It's just the constant every day of seeing my mum not really remembering things. A certain thing that happens, I'll cook her something in the evening, and I'll bring it into the room with a knife and fork and everything, and she'll go, "Oh, that's nice. You cooked me a dinner. Oh, thanks very much. That's wonderful." As if I'd never cooked her a dinner before in her life. And she does it every evening. And I say, "Mum, I did the same for you yesterday." And she'll say, "Did you? Oh, it was nice anyway." Like that. It's like every cup of tea is like the first cup of tea I've ever made for her. Although it's nice, it's not right. Do you know what I mean? It's not the first cup of tea. It's just I've made her a cup of tea like I always make her a cup of tea. Yeah. And other personal things, it's just the sleep thing. If I can get my sleep deprivation sorted, that'd be great. But we'll talk about me in my week a little bit later. There's not much to report. In fact, actually, we might get to the shout-outs in a record time. But we'll do what we always do, which is the news, which is just a real date stamp of what's going on in the world. While I tell you about what I've been doing in my boring little life while all this stuff is going on in the world. It was that sort of thing. That was the reason for it. Plus, my nephew and nieces have a date stamp to go, oh, I remember that news article. Right, yeah, what was my uncle doing then? It's that sort of thing. So we start off with the war. Hopefully I can read my chicken scratch like always. It says here, the US has not stopped military aid to Ukraine. After newly sworn-in US Secretary of State Mario Rubio, is that his name? Mario Rubio, well, there's a name. Announced he would pause foreign aid grants for 90 days. President Zelensky of Ukraine said the Ukrainian leader did not clearly state humanitarian aid had been paused. Ukraine relies on the US for 40% of its military needs. I am focused on military aid. It has not been stopped. Thank God, he said at a press conference. Meanwhile, Putin has stated he is ready for talks with President Trump. Yeah, there's just some stuff here. As soon as Trump came in, there's a newly sworn US secretary. The US secretary then steps in and says this. It's all ambiguous. Zelensky then clarifies what it actually means with a little article that basically says Putin says, yeah, I'll talk with Trump. Yeah, you'll have to. If one of the presidents turns around and says, I want to talk about the war, you got to sort of step up. But listen, you're not going to turn around and say, nah, I don't want to listen to you, you orange git. That's not really going to happen, is it? So there we go. Now, the rest of the UK news is equally damning, really. It's all about the economy and the weather. First port of call on the UK news is WH Smith is in talks to sell all of its high street stores to concentrate its strategy on a worldwide seller. Now, I wondered what that all meant. But it seems that WH Smith, a company that's been on our high streets for years and years and years, I mean, I'm talking about the century before, and the century before that, it's like 1890 something or something like that, is basically saying, I'm pulling out mostly from the UK because I want to concentrate on having stores in every country. So they already have a foothold on airports. I mean, you go to Heathrow Airport, Luton Airport, there's a WH Smith's. And even I've known that when I've gone on holiday to the States, I've actually picked up a magazine to read on the flight or something, and I've gone into a WH Smith to do it. What they want to do is now put further footholds, not in just the airports of countries. They want to expand out and have a WH Smith in France High Street and all this sort of stuff. What that seems to me really is more about the taxes. They know full well that taxes are on the rise up here, because there's another article that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And there'll be less of those in foreign countries. So this strategy, it's a cover as far as I'm concerned. And there's a WH Smith in my town. It's not in the high street, it's in the precinct. Holds actually the post office. So what this means, I don't know. For small villages, small towns, large cities, no idea. But there's 500 plus of these stores. And all I can think of is just what that's going to mean to all the jobs. Yeah, not great. And then the next one is more about the weather. More than 140,000 homes across Northern Ireland and Scotland are without power after storm. Was it called Elowin? Is that what it was called? Elowin? Oof, can't pronounce it. But yeah, the storm, terrible. I've already mentioned before, some of my friends have had fences fell over. If you remember rightly, there was a storm that's not as strong as the one that's just gone, blew my fence over, and I had to wait a couple of days for my uncle to step in. I look out the window and no changes. Absolutely fantastic. Looks like we've survived. But the Midlands didn't get the storms as bad as the west coast of the UK. It blew across Ireland and Scotland and, hit the Pennines and Manchester and all of that really hard. And we got winds, but they were where the winds were 90 to 100 miles, where in the places I've just mentioned, they were more like 70 miles an hour or below in the Midlands. And London might have got nothing because it just blew across that corner. So yeah, I think of those people without power. Hopefully not long now, and fingers crossed for you. Another one like W.H. Smith now. Sainsbury's are to cut 3,000 jobs by closing all of the cafes and centres. And this is happening even though they've announced a 1 billion profit from 2024. Yeah. So basically, it was on the news on Friday. I was looking at this, and apparently what it is, the unions are not happy about this, by the way. They're closing down a section of Sainsbury's, and that is the cafes and the counters. Now, I take it what they mean by the counters is things like the deli, the where you get your fresh fish from, the sushi bars, all of that sort of stuff. They're getting rid of those. So it's just basically aisle shopping, pre-packed stuff. And the reason they're doing it, they're saying, is taxes. They recognise that the government has put up taxes. They have to have a choice. Do they put the money up on the prices of the food, or do they cut jobs, which will take the money? My idea of this is you got 1 billion profit. Why don't you cut your bloody directors' money down a little bit? The money they get back as a dividend or bond for the year. My God, why is it always the small person that has to suffer with all of this? It really annoyed me when I heard this article. It's greed. As much as you'll turn around and say, yeah, but we've got to put the money back into the shops. There's maintenance and all cleaning staff and all of this sort of stuff. I'm turning around saying, that's in your budget anyway. Don't give me this shit. Not interested. So again, 3,000 jobs. A major superstore, Sainsbury's. And remember, we've got others yet. There's Morrison's, Tesco, Lidl, Aldi, all of these. And they're all gonna be taxed the same way. So what's that gonna be like then? Bad. That's all I look at that as. So I was talking about that other storm, and here we are. Look, Storm Hermina is to bring heavy rain and flooding after Storm Elowin's 100 mile an hour plus gusts of wind. So another storm is following. It's bringing it probably not so strong winds, but it's bringing heavy rain. With all of the rain that we've had, the ground is saturated. It means that we're going to have flooding. You know exactly what that means. All those areas that got flooded literally about a month or two back, all those banks that they're supposed to have been fixed, rubbish. They probably haven't even got to them yet. And we're now going to have more flooding, and those people are going to have to claim on their insurance again. There's absolutely nothing that they can do. And again, more money having to be spent. we're too slow to act upon these things that are happening to us. We know storms are coming. We know we're in the firing line of this type of weather. We're that north of the equator and that angle on the earth that basically means we get this temperate weather. We don't get a lot of sun. We get a lot of wind, a lot of rain. When the sun does come up, it hits us because we're not used to it. Plus, the temperatures are rising. So yeah, it's just terrible. All of the news that I'm reading out just depresses me, really. I don't want it to depress you. It's only a date stamp. But these are the news headlines, other than deaths and so forth. There's very little good news. I look for a good news story, like people that are turning around cancer and all of this sort of stuff. But there's very little of it at the moment. So anyway, we got that out of the way, and we just talk a little bit about my week. And like I say, it's been one of those good weeks, one of those ones where not an awful lot happens. Monday, very little happened. I sort of did my work for 8 hours. Wanted to do a lot more, but I fell asleep a little bit. But I did get over a 2-mile walk in on the Monday, so that cheered me up no end. Tuesday is physio day, so I've got work up until about 12:30. Then go to physio, do 2 hours there. After physio, I went and did some shopping straight afterwards, and then took a long walk round to get home to add more walking. I knew that would tire me out. I really was knackered. Because I had to put the food away, get my mum a cup of tea, all of that sort of stuff. It was by then 5:30, 6 o'clock. And I thought to myself, do you know what? I'm just going to sit down. I'll be all right. But sleep caught up with me. But I had a great night's sleep. As soon as I went to bed, I woke up. I didn't wake up as many times in the night. So that meant I had more longer sleep pattern, which is great. But of course, with all of the sleep deprivation from the time before, I'm tired the next day because I'm catching up. You see what I mean? Wednesday was the drive to Bicester. It wasn't a bad drive. It wasn't cold. It was a bit rainy. And there's things that I haven't done this winter that I needed to do. I knew this was going to happen. On the drive back, the little light came on my car that said, fill up with washer fluid. That was it. And I thought, oh, shit. Yeah, haven't filled up my wiper washer fluid in my car for a while. So, of course, this is the thing, when you get a more modern car, they put jets on that wash the windscreen wipers. It also does the jets onto the front of your windscreen. And every time you pull it, it therefore means that there are 6 jets of water going at the front. I think it alternates the front one washer jets to every 2 times. So you pull it on the second time, it won't do the headlights. Then on the third one, it will bring the headlights back in again. So of course you go through quite a bit of washer fluid. So I need to fill that up today. So I need to remind myself to do that, because I'll need to do that for when I'm traveling to work on Wednesday. The battery was all right on the car. It started first time. But then again, I did charge it up a couple of weeks back, and I have done a couple of journeys to work. So of course I'm keeping the battery topped up. What is it? The alternator that does that? Yeah, the alternator is obviously pumping power in. But of course, with the bad weather, you're using more electrical stuff inside your car. You know, I'm turning the heater on and the air conditioning on to free up the mist that's on the windscreen in the morning. I'm using the heaters on the side mirrors to get rid of any dew and frost so I can see properly. The windscreen wipers are on more. Listen to the radio in the morning. The lights are on. Yeah, you know what I mean. So what I tend to do is about halfway through my journey, I'll turn the radio off or the heater will be off. Don't need it anymore after about 5 minutes. Those side mirrors, remember to turn the heaters off on those. And so hopefully I'm pumping a little bit of power back in. But yeah, I definitely noticed that I'm using more electrical stuff. And it always makes me think that if we were to go all electric in these cars, I'll tell you what, the biggest selling point of these electric cars is the in-car entertainment stuff. Christ, it says that it'll do like 300 or 400 miles, right, on a battery, but you turn all that stuff on, I'm surprised you can do half of what they say. So yeah, I'm still in mind that if I ever did need another car before we all go electric, I'd still buy a hybrid. I think that's where I'd go. I'm not fully convinced on this electric car and how long the batteries last. If the batteries go, how much work is needed to do to replace the batteries. I mean, the batteries fill in the whole floor of the car. You've got to replace the whole floor of the car to actually, if the batteries die or anything. I mean, it's atrocious, really. Anyway, what did I get to? That was Wednesday, wasn't it? So after I got home on Wednesday, I did sleep, but my alarm did wake me up in time for me to do my lovely little talk with Ian Hill, the Ramblings. I love Wednesdays. This Wednesday was no difference. I started a little bit earlier. We had a little chat beforehand. I asked him whether he'd liked the films that I'd sent a few of them to him. He'd watched them all. He liked them. There was one I wanted to send, but I couldn't find anything but a multi-language version. That wouldn't work for him. So I need to do that and send a few more. I've been watching a lot of stream stuff. What I mean by stream stuff, I haven't been able to go to the cinema to see certain films that are now streaming. So there's things like The Order, that sort of thing, which were fringe films, and it's nice that I'm able to see them streaming, because the thing about a film being on Netflix is you don't know if any physical media of it is going to come out. So we know the big films like Nosferatu are, so they're already on pre-order. But a film like Juror Number 2, Carry On, The Order that I mentioned earlier, all of those, doubtful, don't know. They're all up in the air. I tend to therefore wait until I've got the physical media of it, but with a doubt on those actually even getting a physical release, then basically I will watch the streamed version. So I've started to do a little bit more of that, so that's great. So I sent a few of them. He talked about those. We talked about everything. We talked about I don't know, TV, movie, a bit of music. Politics came in a little bit, not much. About cinema in general. Some obscure films that we've picked up that we're going to look out for and watch this week. That was good. So yeah, a lot was covered. And it was nice to see some of my friends, Steve and so forth, join in. That was great. I think wee Bob Art turned up for a little bit as well. That was great as well. We had a little bit of a joke about my friend Ian Hill's picture of me in the thumbnail for the video that he puts out each week. It looks very much like I'm smeared in Vaseline or something. It's I do tell him, I said, you must have enough photos now of me to actually do a better picture than this. Bob Art turned around and said, I'll do a better photo for you. Maybe he will. Don't know. I do know that the nice thing about Ian is he took it all in his stride, and he did point out he's redone the picture and it's more high definition, but a lot of people said, I can't see any difference. I don't think it really matters, matey. But, you know, it's nice to have that little joke that we have on it all. So that cheered us all up. Thursday, nothing really to report. By Thursday, I'm on my 4th walk, by the way. I've done 4 days of walking, so I'm really happy about that. But Friday came along, and my walk really was a shorter walk because all I had to do really was go to pick up my tablets. That's right. The Friday last week, I ordered my tablets. So the following Friday, I go and pick them up. It's 7 days. Now, I'd got a text message to say they were ready Wednesday, but of course I was busy, right? So I go to pick them up on Friday, and the first thing that I do, and I don't like doing it because it makes me feel like I don't trust them, is I check my tablets before I leave, right? And I've got 10 or 12 different types of tablets that I have to check, and it's a good job I did because there was one whole set of tablets not there. So I had to go to the counter again and said, look, sorry, love, but I'm missing some tablets, and they're important ones. Do you mind looking out the back there to see if you just missed a package? So she did, and they weren't there, and this was at lunchtime, by the way. It was between 1 and 2 o'clock, so all the people that prescribe the drugs are on lunch. There was nothing there. They looked at the order, and I did write them down. So she gave me a little note that said, here's a note saying we owe you them. And I went, well, I'm not going to have a go. And I did say this because it's not your fault. But I will say this, you're lucky because I've got enough of these tablets to last me to Tuesday. But what was I going to do if I didn't have those tablets? I'd be down to 0. And this is a tablet that is new since I've had my heart attack, and apparently it's a tablet that I have to take 2 times a day, and it's to help with keeping the fat away from the artery. You've got none. What would I do? She said, I'll have to defer you to another pharmacist. We'd have to tell you to phone them and see if they've got stock of it. And I said, okay, well, we don't have to do that this time. When will they be ready? She said Monday. So that's good. My tablets run out Tuesday, then have some on Monday. She did say, though, come in late Monday. Yeah. This doesn't fill me with confidence. This is what's happening with the doctor's surgeries at the moment. I've been down there to get my tablets. Why don't they bloody deliver them to me? I've been down once. I've got to go down again. It's not great. They also deliver my mother's tablets because she's of a certain age. Why can't they drop mine off at the same time? Now, I know I'm sounding lazy here, but, you know, it's one of those things where if one person is going downtown and you've got the bus ordered, then why don't others that also need to get down share the bus? So I'm thinking, why don't you share the tablet delivery? You know, I'm a busy working person. I'm a carer for my mother. Why don't you help me out a little bit? You know, because I'm doing all the shopping and everything. You know, it's very hard now to find times to go and get this stuff. I'm ordering my tablets for her because you've only got an electronic prescription service now. You don't even accept requests over the phone. So I'm having to do my mother's stuff with a computer because she couldn't do it. And everything is turning that way. It's going to be hard for her to get her pension because everything's electronic. You know, it's ridiculous. Thames Water, when the water bill comes through, is all saying, visit our website to do this, that, and the other. An 83-year-old can't do it. It's atrocious. So yeah, my little rant. And, you know, I think we'll end it there. It's been an okayish week. Saturday, nothing really happened. Like I said, I helped a few friends out with some computer problems. I didn't get to work on the laptop for my friend, but I told him I'll be sending it Monday, as is. He's happy with that. I'll make sure it's workable. It's just I'm a bit overcritical. I want to send something which has that Del Boy gold seal of approval. I don't want it there going, oh, I'm finding it bloody slow. It's not really good, and having to work out problems over the phone or something. No, I look at it and go, oh, do you know what? I could make this slightly faster. I could make this slightly more leaner. I could get rid of some of this crap. I could put this on it so he doesn't have to get it himself. I'm constantly thinking I could do more, when really I'm just giving him a device. I mean, he should, he will be over the moon with it. I don't need to do all these things, but it's just the way I am. Just the way I am. I always think I could do more, even at work. I get something out of the way and I think, I could do that so much better. I could do that quicker. I could cut a corner and do this. I could make it more accurate by doing that. I'm always doing that in my head, never thinking that I've done enough. But enough about that. That's me. That's me, worry wart. We'll get to the next section, which is shout-outs. We're doing all right at the moment. Hey, we're not doing bad. Shout-outs, yeah. So I love shout-outs. I've always turned around and said a universal need for all of us is to feel wanted. Every single one of these has made me feel wanted. I have to give the shout-outs to these people. I read out their comments verbatim. I don't care if it's something bad that I've said or whatever. You voice your opinion here, and it's just as valid as my opinion. My blog is my thoughts at the time. Now, I have to point this out. One day you could hate beans on toast and the next day you love it. It's like that, right? So if I've got an opinion or I've said something as an answer, it's at the time I've read it. With more thought, I would have a more constructive answer. So everything I give out, this should be fun. This is what I'm trying to say. And the fun aspect is, did he really say that? Or does he really think that? At the time, absolutely. You know what I mean? Later on, probably not so much. And I'd go, did I really say that? Oh shit, I really meant to say this. And I get names wrong and locations wrong and dates wrong. Well, look, that's because I'm not using Wikipedia or something in front of me and correlating everything I say. So hopefully that's the fun aspect for you. So the shout-outs this week, here we go. We've got Ian Hill, The Ramblings, Martroid, Steve's Gaming, Colin Jones, a.k.a. Ponder, Down the Rabbit Hole, Denny, Muckman-Movies, Andy Likes Stuff, and Carl Todd. Absolutely marvellous. Thank you so much. So we go pretty much straight into what I'm going to have to read out, which is all of those people's comments. And thank you very much to every single one of them. And the first one, not in any particular order, is Carl Todd. There we go, right at the top. It says, "Hi, Del. I hope that you and your mum are okay." Yeah, apart from the memory thing. She's very happy, by the way. She's not got a cold, not coughing, all of that sort of stuff. So I'm happy about her health, Did the storm impact you, or were you okay? Pretty much, I mentioned it before. Winds didn't hit us too bad here. I'm glad my fence is up. It was windy. Don't get me wrong. I went out and the bloody wind was pushing against me when I was going for a walk. It was, pretty tough going. It was almost like I'm walking uphill when I'm flat, It's a bit of a push, to get going with that. Over here, the week of cold weather has passed, and now the temperature is back up to 34 degrees. God, bloody hell, what I'd do for 34 degrees at the moment. However, There is a lot of pollution in the air. A report said that currently Bangkok is the 4th worst city in the world due to high PM 2.5 levels. Yeah, I think California is one of the highest, isn't it? The smog in California, the pollution that you have on the freeways that are there. I mean, I've experienced that, and I had a convertible every time. So I was traveling from, I don't know, San Diego up through Hollywood to the north end of California, as if you were traveling up the I-101 to get to San Francisco. And the smog, my God, yeah. And we must have seen, even in the 70s, we used to watch our TV programs and there'd be a show like TJ Hooker on or something, or Chips, you know what I mean? California Highway Patrol, yeah? And they would do an overhead shot of the freeway and you would see the smog. It was like a dense fog over all the cars. And yet it was like 11 a.m. in the morning or something. And then they'd cut away from the freeway and everything was all bright and clear again. You know, it's like, wow, you know, they've got to do something about that. So yeah, great. Not great, should I say, for you. I hope you're able to get some fresh air from somewhere. Otherwise, we're all going to be going around with bloody oxygen tanks. Anyway, regarding Windows, yes, because I brought up, it wasn't purposely about Windows. It was more about tolerance and understanding that not all the time is Windows to blame, but sometimes it's the applications on top of Windows. But neither here nor there. It was a thing from last week. Regarding Windows, I use it since all my development tools use Windows. And when it comes down to work, all the major companies that we provide products for use Windows, which is exactly what the point was. Only last week we received a question from a major German bank asking if our products will support Windows 11. The exact same conversations we're having in the government at the moment. I never had any issues when installing or setting up Windows 11. But my biggest gripe is how the Windows Update likes to reset the browser, video playback, etc. to use MS apps. Yes, it's one of those bugbears at the moment. I've noticed it. Even on Windows 10, the previous platform, an update comes along and it seems to want to overwrite a driver with a generic one over the top of the manufactured one. I don't like that. I've questioned that in the forums at Microsoft. The only answer I've got is they're looking into that. They're looking at driver. They used to have something called WHQL drivers. They're looking at either reintroducing something like that back or a driver check. But of course, because they signify their generic driver with a different number than the manufacturer, they really don't know what date that is, whether it's newer or not. It's a complicated thing to discuss. A complicated one, probably more to actually adhere to. So I don't know where that will go, but let's fingers crossed. I decided to order the Captain Kronos box set before it sells out. Shipping is steep due to the weight, but it looks like a great set. My God, man, that's a great set. And I'm so sorry that the shipping is going to cost you so much. It is a heavy product, and there is a limited number. I found out it's 3,000 copies of this film. If you've managed to get it, you're not going to be disappointed. But the cost, yeah, I apologize. I mean, I can't do anything about it, but really wait these days for shipping. We've changed things to dimensions of objects rather than wait a little bit over here, which is why sometimes I can get away with selling a load of comics which weigh a ton, but when you wrap them up and put them in a box, the dimensions are so small that the cost is down. But that all tends to be with DPD and Every and those sorts of delivery companies rather than the bigger UPS ones, and even the Royal Mail is tricky, at best. I'll know a little bit more when I send this laptop tomorrow through the Royal Mail. I have no idea how much it will cost, but I don't care. I'm sending it to a mate, so sod it. That's what I say. He's done so much for me, as far as I'm concerned. I think I should be paying him, to be quite honest. But anyway, just have a swig, and we got some questions. Okay, so the top question, I've just read forward a little bit. Yeah, that's a tricky one. It says, are there any movies due for release this year that haven't been hyped, e.g. Marvel movies? There are more than just Marvel movies, I can tell you that. That you are looking forward to. In my case, I'm intrigued to see what Edgar Wright's adaptation of The Running Man will be like, which is closer to the original book. Now, that's such a difficult question because I'll just bring up my webpage for movies this year, because obviously I'm a big movie thing, so I'll just go and have a little look. Right, so I click on that and that. And right, here we go. Right, so this year, it's already slated, there are 352 titles. 352 titles, man, and you're asking me, are there any that aren't overhyped? Let me just go down the list. I'll try not to bring out the hyped ones. Christ. Every single one, that's hyped, that's hyped, that's hyped, that's hyped, that's hyped. Not interested in that. Oh, well, I don't think this one's hyped too much. There was a film years back called Constantine, which was a DC comic character. It's on the Vertigo label, I think, or Elseworlds, Vertigo, something like that. There was even a TV series of it, I think. They are bringing out a second movie, Constantine 2, and it's got Keanu Reeves back. Now, that I might get not excited about, but one I'd go, ooh, yeah, wouldn't mind that one. So, Constantine 2, there you are, there's one. That's hyped, that's hyped. Don't give a shit about that, right? I'm going past things now like SpongeBob the movie, Search for SquarePants, the Smurfs movie. Yeah, really, am I excited about those? No. This sounds good. Ballerina, an assassin trained in the traditions of the Ruska Roma organization, sets out to seek revenge after her father's death. Sounds a bit like Nikita-ish. God, it's got Keanu Reeves in again. Bloody hell, he gets about a bit. Right, that's hyped. Don't know anything about that. Monte Cassino. God, it looks like a war film from the picture. That's hyped, that's hyped, that's hyped, that's hyped, that's hyped. That's definitely hyped. Not interested. Ben 10, no. Yeah, that's hyped. That's hyped. Ooh, might like this one. Roosevelt, the president, yeah? A biographical drama about President Theodore Roosevelt, stars Leonardo DiCaprio, director Martin Scorsese. Probably hyped. Don't know. Definitely I will go to the cinema. It's Martin Scorsese. Leonardo DiCaprio again. I think he's probably going to that well a little bit too much. I'd like him to probably branch out a bit more. But hey, hire what you know, really. Oh my God, I didn't know that. Not gonna. This will be awful. I'm trying not to be negative. I will not say it's awful till I see it. But you tell me whether you think this is a good idea. Highlander is out. An immortal Scottish swordsman faces off with other immortal warriors in order to obtain a coveted ability. Highlander. That's a remake of the original. It stars Henry Cavill. Okay, fair enough. But redoing Highlander, is that a good idea? Oh, no. No, I'm sorry. That's depressed me a bit. That's hyped, that's hyped, that's hyped. Oh my God, another remake. Stargate. They're reading. An archaeologist and a group of Marines discover a portal to another world. Oh, Stargate, my God, man. Stop this, for God's sake. Let's keep going down. Never heard of that. Oh yeah, well, Final Destination. I think that's hyped. I'm still going to watch it. Wolfman is out now. I want to see that. Saw 11 is going to be hyped. Heat 2, follow up to the first Heat film, might be good. I haven't heard much about it, so I won't say it's hyped. Adam Driver's in it. A good actor. Pretty good. That sounds okay as well. There's a film called Companion. Weird picture on the front. A billionaire's death sets off a chain of events for Iris and her friends during a weekend trip to the lakeside estate. Oh, don't tell me it's a Friday the 13th type film where you're at the lakes and basically everybody's going around stabbing each other. But there you are. Let's see. I'm not going to keep going down too much more. Right. I'll stop it on this one. This is one I'll definitely watch. Frankenstein, like the Wolfman. Dr. Pretorius tracks down Frankenstein's monster, who is believed to have died in a fire 40 years before, in order to continue the experiments of Dr. Victor Frankenstein. Guillermo del Toro has basically directed this. It's got Mia Goth in it. Oscar Isaac. Yeah, I'm interested in that one. That's the 61st film out of 200. How many was it said at the top? This year there are 352 titles, of which I skipped down and read out, 4? That are not going to be hyped, my God. And how many sequels, my God. Like I said, films I skipped at the beginning, if you wanted to know. Captain America Brave New World, hyped. Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, hyped. 28 Years Later, hyped. Jurassic World Rebirth, hyped. Avatar Fire and Ash, hyped. Thunderbolts, hyped. Fantastic Four First Steps, hyped. Superman, hyped. Snow White, hyped. You know what I mean? Those were just the first ones. I had to scroll past all those just to get to the other stuff. So yeah, that's giving you a bit of a laugh anyway. The number 2 of your questions is, in the news I heard that Sony was stopping production of recordable Blu-ray discs, as well as various other recordable media. I wonder if you still ever burn any disc, and what was the last thing you burnt on disc? Well, I still use burning of discs. Yeah, I do. If I ever run out of space on hard drives, I do still burn 2 discs. I've got a burner in my drive. It's still here. I did see the news article, but it was like 6 months ago I read that article. What the article deluded to say is they're cutting back on the number of discs that they're recording, to even to a point where they might discontinue them, because Sony don't make Blu-ray burners anymore. The product is starting to stagnate because of the cheap price of memory and hard drives. The faster access of SSDs as well means that CDs, DVDs are becoming a bit redundant. Your car now can have an SD card for you to play your music from. You can Bluetooth from your phone. It's really a necessity of, we shouldn't be manufacturing as many of these discs as we do. And most pirators, if you're putting things on discs, they're not doing that anymore. They're putting them on torrent sites for you to download and play through your TV on a USB stick. The need for discs is less. But I do know that certain even government sections still back up to DVD. They used to do it to tapes. But tapes were starting to wear or worn. The media was so cheap that they actually used, they started to just do certain low-end sections with DVD burners that we changed over each day. And there are rewritable discs as well, RWs. So you've got to think about, I don't know how much of the business population now backs up, because they're using cloud services. So we will see. the last thing I burnt would have been probably a load of old drivers and apps in case I need to restore them and the drive breaks. But again, I used to burn old MKV films that I downloaded. Even though I bought them in steelbook format, I used to still keep the digital one. And I thought to myself, I don't need them on my NAS. I don't need them on my computer. I've got the disc if I want to open it up, but I'll just back up this one in case I wanted to media stream it later on. Because it'll be just a simple matter of copying it back across and bang, I've got it. So that's pretty much what I did. I used to buy a spindle of 100 Blu-rays every 2 months, say, every month. At one point, it was every week, right? When in its heyday, my God, I was burning. You might as well, I was setting fire to the world with the amount I was burning. But yeah, rarity at the moment. So I understand Sony's point on it a little bit. I don't think it'll affect physical media at all. There was a big article about, and this was a big media story that was everywhere, right? On my phone, it said LG to stop making 4K players, and this is based on the diminishing returns of 4K films. Bollocks! They hadn't brought out a new LG player in 3 years. And everything that is being sold on Amazon that's got an LG name against a 4K playback device was from 3 years ago, and stocks that they bought. They haven't brought out a new player in years. It was a load of bollocks, to be quite honest. It's one of those ones that gets people attention because all the articles point to the fact that physical media is on the demise. You know, Best Buy are not selling films anymore. Walmart are diminishing their shelves of that. Film studios are turning around and saying that they're looking at streaming rather than bringing out physical media. But physical media is strong. Like you say, Captain Kronos has just come out in a £50 box set. It's gorgeous. Marvelous. So I think things are going to change, but I don't think they're going to be. I don't think physical media is going to wipe itself out earlier. I think it'll be gone shortly, but I don't think this year, next year is going to be anything. Last year I bought more physical media than I've ever done before. So there we go. Say that. That's the end of your questions. It says, take care, mate. Salute to you, my friend. Thank you so much. And we move on to my next friend, Denny. Well, my best, he's my bestie, really. So he's put, hello, mate. I can honestly say I've never slept so well the last couple of weeks due to exhaustion. 2025 has not started out well at all for me and doesn't seem to have an end date to the current issues I'm facing, which saddens me. And I'm glad that you've taken your time to still stay in touch, matey. I know it's very difficult for you. It's why you haven't called. Do not worry. Get yourself sorted, matey. I have to say, I love your lush new keyboard. Very fancy. Yeah, the story behind it was probably better than the actual design of the damn thing. But yeah, it's a lovely keyboard, and I'm really enjoying it. It's great. You say Columbo and the Rockford Files. Yes, I wondered if you was going to bring that up, Stephen, Jake, and Al. Yeah, of course. I mean, if I'm a big fan of Columbo, then I've seen the titles and I've gone, oh, God, I know that guy. Not physically, but I recognise that. That's how I knew about, Steven Spielberg directing a Columbo episode and things like that. You rewatch them and you see the titles come up and it suddenly clicks with you, you know what I mean? My vinyl collection. Can't say I play them these days. I prefer CDs, but won't get rid of the vinyl. It's too sentimental. Yeah, I've got a lot of vinyl. I couldn't get into getting records again in a big way. I'm glad my friends do. They keep that torch alive. Do you know what I mean? It's great. And records are back on the up, and it's keeping shops like HMV open and all sorts of wonderful stuff because they're there, but they're not for me. I'm not into this. Oh, I've got the blue edition of this and the color splatty version of this one, or the 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 nappy coloured one of this, or whatever, you know. Or this one looks like blood's is sprayed across it. They look gorgeous, but I'm not into that so much as I am into the designs of steelbooks and embossing and debossing and all of that sort of stuff, because that's one of my great loves. If I had a millionaire's worth of money, yeah, I'd be getting records over the other media, CD and so forth. There's no doubt about that, because my nostalgia goes back to those, but I can't afford it, so it's as simple as that. And don't get me wrong, I love CDs, but CDs are a much easier and cheaper method for me to get stuff, and I still buy soundtracks, and they're in CD format. Colin brought up some good points last week about work shifts. I've put mine up for you all to see how insane it is, and current fave modern game has to be Heroes of Hammerwatch 2. I've heard of that, Heroes of Hammerwatch 2. Fabulous indie title and a lot of depth for 12 quid. You didn't tell me about that. Oh, then again, sorry, yeah, you've not been very well. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But I'll have to look into that. I've heard of Heroes of Hammerwatch. I think I've got it. But the second one, no. Right, I'm going to be looking at that shortly. Dell, you say, you mentioned Guild Wars 2 makes me think about playing it again. Yeah, we keep talking about it, don't we? Me, you, and whoever else on here who wants to join us. Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Dale, you mentioned Guild Wars 2 makes me think about playing it again. Me, you, and whoever else on here who wants to join us, start our own guild. Would be wonderful for a stream. Well, I didn't think about it like that, but yeah. I mean, you've got it, I've got it. I don't know how many other people have got it. It's a free product for the starter. I mean, you have to pay for the expansions. Possibly. Be a wonderful for a stream, possibly, yeah, great. We'll have a think about that, matey, yeah. Get yourself better first, though. 8-bit games never translate well to 16-bit. I 95% agree with that. There's been a couple, but very few, far and few between. Can't think of any that come to mind that did. Yeah, let me think. I think Elite worked purely because of the speed, but it wasn't a better game. You're quite right on this. I mentioned about Myth last week, and the 8-bit one is far better. And there have been other ones like Blood Money and all of this sort of stuff. The 8-bit versions, because of the crampness of the size of the window that they've had to put the graphics in, and means that the speed is just about right, where you have a higher resolution. The bigger character that they have to design to make it look like the 8-bit version doesn't work. And if you make it small, it makes it too easy. Or they have to fill it up then with far more creatures, and then it's just more to shoot at. And yeah, it doesn't translate very well. I think actually, yeah, you're more on the right than on that. I think there's still the odd one if I really think hard. Was Carrier Command written for 16-bit and downgraded to 8? I think it was, so that's not one. No, yeah, I think you're right. You mentioned OLED Gen 4. Yes, I did. I can honestly say my G4 is absolutely amazing as long as you turn off energy saving. The picture is so bright. Yeah, I was talking about G4 because OLED G4 has got a slightly different way the screen is made. OLED, the third generation, used 2 blue layers and a middle layer that had green. What was it? It was green and red mixed together. What they've done now is done 2 blue layers, but inside there you've got a red layer and the green layer. So basically it's not sandwiched in the middle, it's alternate, and you've got all four, and they've separated red and green, which is the important thing. So now you've got a more saturated colour look, and it also allows for better brightness, for which they've done the first, was it 4,000 nit? Did I say, or was it 40,000? 40,000 nit, I think it was, OLED TV, which is bloody bright. So that's good. A fun question this week, you say. What name would you call our guild for Guild Wars? Well, that's difficulty, matey, because I'd ask you, well, right, I'll think of some, you think of some, which ones, and we might amalgamate both of our ideas together. I'd never choose it and say, right, you're joining my guild and here's the name. I'd never do that. You know, I mean, we could come up with stupid things like the Denny's Gang, Del Boy Trotters, Worldwide Guild. I don't know. You know, the I don't know, the Trekker Killers. I don't know, you know, about, you know, people, the Highland Pack. I don't know, all sorts of things would have. The Guild of Thieves. Well, that's a game, isn't it? The Guild of Thieves. Somebody's bound sure to have used that. We'll have to have a think about that. You say, take care, best wishes to your mother. Thank you very much. Absolutely brilliant. We move on. Thank you so much. And get better soon, matey. We move to Steve's gaming. Let's get Steve out the way. Or should I say, Steve, you bastard, you're too fucking good, you little shit. Yeah. What's he put? He said, my comment was put in 2 days ago and it's vanished today. So I'm posting it back in. I'm sorry if that happens. I really do. But it's here, look. It hasn't gone away this time. Good blog again. Thank you. About the hospital, things are getting really bad, and it infuriates me that people blame Labour. It's not their fault. Believe me, I dislike Starmer. But this is purely down to funding costs year after year by the Tories since 2010. It's a political thing that you're bringing up here, and I don't really have an opinion, but I would say that every government that's been in since the war has diminished the NHS funds. Labour came in, Tony Blair. According to history, he nearly obliterated the NHS. That was in before the Conservatives came in. But I'm not a fan of either. And you're quite right, the Tories did diminish the funds. But I think every government that's been in has diminished. You know what I mean? There were strikes in the NHS during Labour's last bringing into power. So, yeah. So I agree with you. The Tories have diminished it all. I'm just saying that so have others. I hope it'll be fixed, but it's not going to happen overnight like some are expecting. We all know that. I agree with you there. Like I say, everything here is an opinion. I'll read it out, then I might give my opinion afterwards. I totally wholeheartedly agree with what you've said, Steve. All I'm saying is I think all the governments have been guilty of that through all of their years of power. David Lynch was a real loss, yeah. I loved Dune, the original, that is. I've seen the modern remake, but wasn't a fan. I still prefer the original. In my opinion, it's a classic film. Totally with you there. I do enjoy the new one. I do think it looks lovely. It sounds lovely. The story is great. But I still hanker for the old one. Even now I can see Sting in his sort of like clear sort of like hexagonal armour battling and stuff. It was a great little effect on a film that didn't have a fantastic budget and a very complex book to try and bring to film. About Windows. I use it daily, but I hate it. It's so bloated and crap. Don't get me wrong. There have been some good versions. I like Windows 98 SE. I love Windows XP and Win 7. But I'm using Win 11 now. And in my opinion, is that it's crap. Believe me, I would love to drop it and move to Linux, but I have no experience with Linux, and I feel I don't want to start learning a new OS at my age, and I don't have the patience for it. So I'm stuck with Windows 11, even though I dislike it. And I totally get that opinion. I mean, I was talking last week about Windows purely from a point of view that some people, and there'll be a lot of people that are out there, will say it's Windows' fault without actually looking and seeing whether that's true or false. Windows is a platform that all other apps and everything install onto. Sometimes it can be Windows' fault, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it can be the app crashing because it's written badly, right? So an unstable product on top of a product that's not liked means that people blame Windows. You see what I mean? Other things like first installations of operating systems, they do take time to steady in. I'll mention that probably a little bit later on, but I do think Windows gets a very bad rap. I think 90% of the time it's deserved. There's 10% of the time that make me think, no, it's not that fault. That would happen regardless. You got to remember that it's a software layer on top of a hardware layer, and the hardware layer is not that stable. And we're constantly gearing forward with new methods in our devices. Like the graphic cards have now got new APIs that basically on the top of things like ray tracing and all sorts of stuff. On top of, and you put that new device into an older motherboard, and it basically means that the graphic card's bottlenecked. There's a lot of stuff like that you have to consider, but Windows will always get the blame. That's all I'm saying. Apple's operating system, don't get me started. They control the hardware, they control the software, and they control the users using their software by stopping them from putting on stuff that I think they should be allowed to do. And so it comes across as stable. Well, it's stable because they're stopping you from being able to do anything remotely fun or exciting or that will push the envelope forward for future operating systems. So don't get me started with Apple. Bloody awful. But yeah, I'm 95% with you. I go back to what I said last week. When I was talking about Windows, it was from a tolerance point of view. It wasn't to say I'm a fanboy of Windows. But remember this, I base 30 years of my career on the fact that there is an operating system called Windows. How can I really badmouth it? It turned me into an administrator, into a hardware and configuration manager, So I've got to sort of like turn around and say, Windows is my life a little bit. So, but I'm not biased. I'm a bit like you. Maybe I should operate a little bit more with Linux. But as I've already mentioned to my friend Colin, my firewall is a PC and it's got Linux on it. It's got nothing else on it, Linux, and it's a firewall. It's configured so that everything of my PC goes through this firewall, which is a PC itself. It's an old Pentium processor, and it's my firewall. I don't trust the firewall in my router. So there you are. There's another layer, and Linux, I think, is bulletproof for that. But really, really do. Now for a couple of questions. Question 1. What arcade game back in the day swallowed up the most of your 10p coins? Ghosts and Goblins. Already mentioned it. I told the story of where I first met Ghosts and Goblins, and it was in a nightclub. There was in the corner of my eye this machine. You could hardly hear it because of the noise of the music. but I saw this little knight jumping through a zombie-infested graveyard, and I thought, wow, this is my sort of game. I love Arthurian type games, you know, with people in knights, you know, armor, you know, people that are firing arrows, all of that sort of stuff. Love it, you know what I mean? And if this has got now a horror element to it, even more. So I put my coins in, died loads and loads and loads of times, didn't stop me. I went, oh, I'm going to get further this time, another 10 pence. And it almost became a stay point for me, because every week I used to go out with my mates and we'd go nightclubbing. We'd go to that same nightclub and I'd go straight to that machine and have a good half hour on it. Each time I was getting slightly better. But there was whole 7 days before I got to go on it again. And if I didn't go out that weekend, then it would be 14 days. But I loved it, just like I loved all the old ones. Pac-Man, Space Invaders, Galaga, Galaxian, Phoenix for definite. When the fair came round, I used to look out for a game called Ring King. I used to love that. I just used to like the cartoon graphics type things, and the punching and all the heads going back like this. It just reminded me of the Rocky films, where if you see Mr. T and, you know, which and Sylvester Stallone fighting in Rocky 3, all you see is him jab and the head's going like this, and then coming back, you know, forward, and he'd be going and the game just reminded me of all of that. I just thought, oh, this is Rocky. It's great. Loved it. Question 2. I'm a huge fan of the late Harry H. Corbett. Yeah, I know you love the iconic Steptoe and Son, but which Harry H. Corbett film is your favourite? Well, of course, other than the Steptoe and Son films, because there's 2 of those. Let me think. Oh, of course. Yeah. Without a doubt, and even though there are far more films with him in, Carry On Screaming. Yeah. I think it was genius to go outside of the normal players of Carry-Ons to hire Harry H. Corbett when Sid James was not around, and to have him as the main detective type thing. That was brilliant. Carry On Screaming for definite, yeah. That's all. Take care and love to your mum. I always pass on my love to my mum from you, Steve. She's gotten used to you now, because I show her you playing games. And she laughs a lot. Not just at your deaths, just some of the things that you say. She understands now a little bit more about games, and she just finds the cartoon aspect of it quite fun. So she does watch your channel. She's not a subscriber because she hasn't got an account, but you know I'm subscribed to you. So salute, and just to know, maybe my mum might leave a comment. You never know. I'll let you know on that one. Just going to pause for a moment. We've got over an hour and I need to sort of like check on my mum, get her a cup of tea. So won't be a second. Well, it's not going to be any time to you guys. Back in a moment. There we are. Checked on my mum, but I hit the wrong button. So I hit stop recording. So I've got to do another join at some point. It might slow me down at just getting this out. Sorry about that. But anyway, you won't notice it, I don't think. We move on and we get to my friend Ian Hill, the Ramblings, and what's he got to say? He says, "Hi Del Boy, hope you and your mum are okay. Thanks as always for making our Wednesday live such an enjoyable time. It always seems to pass by so quickly because we're having so much fun." Yeah, we do. Absolutely wonderful. I always look forward to Wednesdays. Absolutely marvellous, my friend. I've watched my download of Nosferatu and thought it did live up to the hype surrounding it. If I'm honest, I much prefer the Dracula Hammer tradition of vampires. No one has ever matched Sir Christopher Lee in the role. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen it yet. I've ordered it on a steelbook. I'll get round to that at some point. I watched an Irish film called Black 47, made in 2018, which was set in Ireland in 1847 at the time of the Great Famine. The potato crop had failed, many died of starvation, the impact was massive. Today, the Irish population is not as big as before the Great Famine. Some also moved to mainland Britain or emigrated to America. I thought it was a good film and played out like a western with a tale of revenge. It's a period of Victorian history I had not seen portrayed before. The fight for independence could be seen there too. The British always seem to treat the Irish badly. Yeah, I agree. I don't think we've portrayed the Irish particularly well in celluloid, and in real life, definitely we haven't. So my question this week is, do you think we will be able to manipulate the growth of food crops so they cannot fail? It has been a controversial area with the banning of genetically enhanced food. Yeah. What do I think of it? Well, yeah, I come from a farming background, but I haven't really thought about it too much. I haven't even asked my uncle about it much, really. Genetically engineered crops, I suppose it's going to help with world hunger. But aren't there unknown side effects, really? I mean, we're making things grow bigger, becoming more hardy, like you say, crops that don't fail. But it's an unknown. Also, how is this going to impact farmers? If we can make them so that they're more hardy, then of course there's going to be less need, isn't there, for certain crops. You'll find that two farmers both growing wheat will cut down to one because the other one is growing, and there's are also, and it's just an overhead then of wheat or something like that. And then I suppose there's the uncertainty as a British public whether we'd want to buy that when we're so big on organic food. If you genetically engineer it with the unknown side effects of what might happen in 15 years' time by eating genetically engineered tomatoes, then of course I don't know what the buying public would think about that. We've got so much stuff now, haven't we, about battery hens and organic vegetables and fruit and so forth. So yeah, it's a tricky question. I can understand why there is controversy over it. Where I currently stand with it, while there are a multitude of carrots and potatoes and peas that I can buy, I don't see the need of buying the genetically engineered versions of it. So as far as I'm concerned, I'd avoid it until there's a need to purposely have it. So yeah, that's all I can say about that. Take care and have a grand time, as you say up in the north. Yeah, I'll try to. Thanks very much, matey. Absolutely wonderful. And salute to you, my friend. Keep well. Look forward to this Wednesday. Then we get to Martroyd, my friend Martroyd. He's put, hi, Del. I'm away doing a spot of camping. Well, glamping, really. The week is a nice coastal town near Raglan. A lot of surfers and arty types here. Anyway, what's that word? I'll be piecemealing my way through the blog. So thanks for giving me something decent to watch. Love the new keyboard. Suitably psychedelic it is. Yeah, thanks very much. The keyboard might become a character like I am. I don't know. But have a great time glamping. Might have to try that myself at some point. All these things I don't do that I should think about doing. So there you go. Salute, my friend. And we move to Colin Jones, who was one of the early people who wrote something, and I actually wrote something back because his opening statement was, opening comment, expect a bit of why I personally dislike using Windows, which I have no problem with. My answer to that straight away was, LOL, look forward to it. However, and I did put this, it was really a moan on tolerance and an insight into my hope for my own less negativity outlook on life. We all have dislikes, but sometimes we have to step back and think of the good that comes out of the bad and our deductions on why and how things go wrong. Because sometimes I think Windows will get the blame for something that is not actually Windows' fault itself. LOL I've put. Many things I dislike on Windows, because there are a heck of a lot, right? But with my own outlook, I am sure many have a reason globally on why they are like they are. So I look forward, hang on, it says read more. So I look forward to reading your comment, my friend. And I am. So we're going to read it out now verbatim. And it's got, and it says, while you were mentioning tolerance, a massive grin was forming on my face. Because I love it. I love comments. This is going to be brilliant. It's got, my keyboard can do those effects and be all pretty. I keep it as plain blue. Yeah. It wasn't about the RGB, matey. It was the shame that my keyboard went. Actually, the most important thing was the little screen. It was the little screen. And the screen was great because it gave me the clock and the GPU and all of this sort of stuff. So while the game covered all of my window gadgets that you see on the right-hand side sometimes when I'm doing the media stuff, I can't tell if my machine is getting really hot or whether the threshold on memory is happening. So if I see a judder in the game, I can't really tell what's causing the problem. There are lots of little apps that you can load, but I don't like things in the top left-hand corner that say frame rate and all of this sort of stuff. So it was nice that I used to have this GPU thing on my screen so that when I was playing, I could just quickly look down and go, oh, yeah, it's all right. The PC's okay at the moment. It's not using a great amount of RAM, blah, 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 blah. So it was me missing that, and this keyboard does display the GPU and memory and all of that, so that's great. You know, it suits a purpose for me. Regarding tolerance and Windows, here we go. Right. I can have a Linux Mint installed from scratch and brought fully up to date and ready for production in under an hour. I can even connect my home folder. I keep it in its own SSD and have all my files available instantly. Brilliant. The glacial way Windows works is 100% Microsoft's fault. I disagree with that. It's a bloated megalith. It is. Okay. Linux isn't perfect by any means. No, it's not. And is definitely less suited for a layman. But for me, and this is where I'm totally agreeing, it's a far, far smoother and productive environment than Windows offers. I'm not going to labour this any further because I'd easily write an essay on it. But I'd rather not have to use a Windows machine for any longer than I absolutely need to. And that's the brilliance of it, because I'm totally in agreement with you. And in fact, I sometimes wish we should be in a Linux world by now. But unfortunately, the world doesn't act like that. There may come a time that will happen, because if Microsoft keep failing and failing and failing and all of that sort of stuff, we will have to certainly reconsider, and businesses will have to do the same. What I actually said before is that we did consider Linux even in the department that I was in, and then they showed me the budget on how much it would cost, and it just wasn't viable. That's the difficulty. Business and so forth thrusts things into the situations that we're at. Do you know what I mean? I think sometimes that businesses hold us back. I'm sure Asus, Gigabyte want to write a PC with a totally different motherboard and not be backwardly compatible. Trouble is, you would then lose the business interest. The gaming interest does garner a lot of money. Do they split the gaming machines from the PC machines? Slightly, but not by much. They still have PCIe slots, SATA slots, all of that sort of stuff in all of the machines. They don't split it so that SSD is exclusively to the gaming motherboards or anything else. From that point of view, the operating system that runs on top of it is a global one, and in this particular instance it's Windows. As I said before, I'm not a fanboy of Windows. Windows to me is what keeps me in a job. While it keeps me in a job, then basically I have a better tolerance for it. Do I like to keep sprouting that out? Nah. What I don't like sometimes is Windows getting the blame for something that could be the application's fault rather than the operating system's fault. Windows is to blame for a lot of it. And there's no way that I'm going to turn around and say that is not the truth, because it is. And I long for stability. I long for ease of use. I don't long for dumbing things down. And to be quite honest, if somebody was to come up to me tomorrow and say, in the government department that I work in, would you like a Linux laptop or would you like a Windows one? I would say a Linux one, please. Why not? It'll force me to learn something. It will start to broker in a different operating system. As more pick it up, it might then become the best machine out there. Not going to happen. That's the difficulty. That's just not going to happen. In the future, it will. In my lifetime, I don't think so. And I've only got 16 years left of working before I get to retire, somewhere around there. And I don't think in 16 years it will turn around. I don't. Maybe we can look back, Colin, together, this blog, and have a laugh together. 16 years on from now, because we'll still be friends, we'll still be talking. I've got no doubts about that. And going, see, Linux did win. And I'll be going, put my hands up. And I'll say, I owe you a pint. You got it right. And that's all it's going to cost me is a pint. So I'm happy with that. You carry on. Though to be absolutely fair, in my own experience, while it does take longer to start a fresh install of Windows, it's never taken me days. I just keep running updates until it says it's up to date. Now, what I have to say about that is, when we used to build PCs, we used to do a 24-hour bench test, sometimes 48 hours. 24 hours of that would be hardware, 24 hours would be software. Once it's bench tested, we used to hand it out. I don't think they do too much of that anymore. What I was trying to get at is it is really poor to get a system out of the box, look and see that one set of updates is done, necessarily think that's enough, put the applications on and start doing something productive on it. I think that's a bad technique to be into. You can do it in a day, fair enough. Other people, possibly not. What I will say is, I think it's not advisable. How's that as a word? Not advisable to do that. As I said, I thought I'd installed Office 365, right, correctly. And then it did an update. And what I did find out that my Word inside Office 365 needed 3 reboots and 2 other downloads to get it up to scratch. I didn't realize that. And those updates were coming down through the Windows update process. And I got to about another reboot and it was there okay. And I started to use it and it was all right. And then I was finding that other updates were being downloaded. Now, the older the machine and the less times that you've updated it, because in the old days, you could turn off the update process completely. You had to do this 7 times. You would start off at Windows 8 and you had to get to Windows 12 and then it went up to 365 and so forth. And it was 7 or 8 reboots. Now, you can't tell what those reboots are unless you're really good. Check the version of Word, look at what the latest version is, and find out how many different updates there are to get you to that point. And along that line, there will also be Java updates or whatever, you know. I'm talking about other background tasks and updates like .NET Framework and all sorts of stuff, right? And then we talk about DirectX and all that sort of stuff. There will always be APIs that are missed, and it will say on a legacy product, this doesn't work, you're missing this DLL. and all of that sort of stuff. And all of that is because you didn't open it up, right? You thought that your operating system was up to date. You thought that the old product is installed. So basically, everything's okay. You go to that game, try to open it up, missing a DLL. Oh, DirectX forgot. Download direct, blah, blah, blah. And the one thing you don't do then is backwardly look back and see, oh, has that DLL caused me another problem somewhere else? So in a day, no. I'm sorry, I will argue that point all the time. So it's just me, and the fact that as an administrator and how I was brought up indicates to me that it's not enough time. Okay, and I might count a day as 8 hours. You know what I mean? Because it's working environment, right? So yeah, I will always, if somebody gave me what my recommendations were when I handed over a product, I would turn around and say, this is new, sign into it, should be okay, expect some little things to come up, can you let me know what they might be? I'll always do that, because I can never be 100% sure that there's something I haven't missed. I've got checklists, all that sort of stuff, but it's a lot to do to put back. So yeah. Anyway, he carries on. Give my regards to your mum. Glad you're making sure she's warm, but I know how that memory is a concern. Yes, it is, matey, it is. Thank you so much. Collaboration is built into Twitch, but I've never tried it. I really must try it sometime, but as it stands, it doesn't fit what I actually do. Maybe on someone else's channel someday first. Yes, totally agree with all that. Rescue was indeed a high score kerfuffle game. Last game of season 4, almost 4 years ago. Brilliant. Shuffler streams videos are batshit crazy and makes my head spin. I'll still watch them though. I'll never do it myself. That's that thing that Steve was doing with those shuffler things. It makes my head spin. I was going, I couldn't do that. No. And some of them are enjoyable, but I'm sorry, it does my head in. My question. That's brilliant of you. Thank you so much for all those comments, by the way. And I love your opinions. And I tell you what, nothing to disagree with. Absolutely nothing. My question, how often do you visit a library? If you don't do so much these days, were you ever a frequent library visitor? All the way up till about 22, I was in libraries. The internet did take some of it away. We have got a library in my town. I visited it twice in the last 10 years. I still like going into them. I still like seeing a book on a shelf that I'll go, oh, didn't know that was out. Pull it out, read it, and go, I really want to buy that now. And then, find a Waterstones or something, and then order it, or look on Amazon and see if I can buy it. But we are in a world where Kindles, digital books, internet libraries with all the information that we need is there. But you know how much I love books. I've got comic books, reference books, autobiographies, fiction, science fiction, non-fiction, all of them. Love every single one of them. And I still love the opening of a book and the smell of a book. You know what I mean? It will never go away from me. So I hope that answers that. Thank you so much, Colin. And like I say, can't disagree with anything that you said. Absolutely spot on. I have an opinion. That opinion can be poo-pooed as much as you want. All I'm saying to you is 30 years of experience in that, in the statements that I've made. Maybe I've had too much bad luck. Maybe I do things wrong. But, you don't do it that many times wrong, and you don't become a manager by doing things wrong either. Anyway, thank you so much. Salute, sir. So much looking forward to your videos as you come out, including the high score ones. We get on to Down the Rabbit Hole, my friend, who I watch each week, and he's got awesome stuff as always. I find it ironic that Dell has decided to give a Dell laptop to someone. Yeah, that is ironic. Unfortunately, it's what we used for the team in the probation service called BTE, Back to Employment. And we needed to train the offenders on health and safety in the workplace, driving, because they needed to learn how to drive to get to work, even driving in a factory environment, including forklift truck certification, was part of the BTE project. And so there was an awful lot of software that we had to put on there, including virus protectors, firewalls, updates of the exams, .NET framework updates, Java updates, all sorts of stuff. This is going back 6-7 years. And we didn't need anything really powerful, but they were all going to be chucked out, all going to be thrown away. And I spoke to my manager, and he went, nah, you put some in the back of your boot of your car if you want. As long as you understand, you need to wipe them. And pretty much that's what I did. And the 2 types of wipe he gave me were totally remove the operating system. There's a couple. Take away the hard drive and put a different one in. Remove everything to do with the applications and remove the user account. Never give away the administration account. Yeah. So that was done, adhered by me. Speaking of which, you continue. I just spent last weekend upgrading the RAM in my wife's laptop, and it surprised me first of how difficult it was to pop the cover off to get to the interior, but also how many dead inserts were left there. For example, no DVD drive, but instead a plastic shell where one would go. Have you had the fun of doing home IT jobs for friends or family recently, Del? And have you noticed how much more difficult it is to do the simplest of upgrades? I have. I built the mini tower for my next door neighbour. I corrected a router issue at the post office. They allowed me to look at it with my security clearance for government. They allowed me to even go behind the counter. You have to be very, very careful these days. And the laptop that I've just done for my friend, it had 4 gig of RAM in it because it doesn't require anything too much. It's the Dell, like you saw there, mentioned before. There are something like 15 screws on the back, and when you remove those 15 screws, the back still wouldn't come off. And it's because if you turn it round and lift up the lid where you can see the screen and see the keyboard, you have to lift the keyboard out, unhook the ribbon cable that goes to the board, and then you have to remove 4 screws underneath the keyboard to get the back cover to drop off. And then it was trapped by the hinge at the top on the reverse. So you have to then close the lid, do that, lift it up, unclip and slide the hinge just so that you can put 1 stick of RAM in it. Absolutely ridiculous. The older laptops used to have a hole, right? You used to have a cover that was covered by a screwdriver that you just undid, and you'd see the memory and you'd clip it in and close the cover. And you'd do the same for the CMOS battery, and the battery would clip off as well. What else was there? The hard drive. The hard drive used to be also under a cover. Now it slides in and out from the side. This particular drive does have a DVD burner, yeah, but the earlier options that we had did have just a plastic cover. When you undid the screws, there was a hollow piece of metal, the square size of a CD drive, which you had to unscrew and take out. No drive was there, no connector was there. It was just that's why they filled the hole to keep the back robust. Yeah, it's bloody awful, the laptops these days. That, you know, they've made them as hard to get into as Apple iPhones. They're supposed to be one shot. If they go wrong, chuck them out. You want to fill it with RAM, buy another machine with the RAM already in it. They're getting to those, but the slots were still there for you to slide it in. How a home person was supposed to do that, I don't know. I knew how to do it. I've got the service manual, but my God, yeah, atrocious. I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for a comment. I don't get too many from you, but when I get them, so enjoyable to read out. Absolutely fantastic. If you haven't noticed already, guys, most of these people have got their own YouTube channel. Please support them. They've got such fantastic channels. We're getting to the end now. We've got the last two. Muckman-Movies is the one from last, my friend. He's put, "Good day, Del Boy. Nice to see your mum is making a cameo performance." Yes, she did last week. "That Captain Kronos set looks very nice. Not sure I'd have room for it, as space is at a premium now. Another curated cult on my collection is on the cards. Anyway, I got a question for you. We all know you are a huge Spider-Man fan. But if Spider-Man didn't exist as a character, who would be your favourite superhero and why?" Oh, wow. That is such a great question. Nobody's asked me that before. I'll tell you what, I loved Spider-Man because it was introduced to me by my father. But the thing that I loved about it was he was a misunderstood character. More my age, because I was reading it at the age very early before pre-teen, so I was looking at him as a teenager, and everything that was going wrong, he was very protective of his family. So he was always trying to get money for his aunt. He was always trying to make ends meet by photography. He was bad-mouthed in the press. Everybody was Marmite about whether he was a good guy or a bad guy. But he had all the teenage problems like catching a cold, headaches, fevers, running out of money to make web fluid, all of that sort of stuff. And all of that resonated with me because he was also bullied at school for being a nerd. I was bullied at school for my weight and all sorts of stuff. So because of that, the character resonated. There weren't many other characters that were like that at the time. I could say that the Hulk would probably be a good one because the Hulk, again, is a Jekyll and Hyde character. It's one of those ones where you've got a character who's very mild-mannered, wouldn't step on an ant. Suddenly, when he's picked upon, rage would occur, and that's what I've had internally myself, rage, right? And an ugly side of the character would show, but an ugly side so powerful that it could virtually destroy the world. You know what I mean? Smashing down on the ground, destroying armies, leaping huge distances, bulletproof, ray-proof, radiation-proof, all that sort of stuff, with the mind, what they call the mind of a monster, or in this instance, the mind of a child. Didn't understand. All he wanted to do was be liked, loved, but because of his looks, because of how powerful he looked, scared everybody to death. So I resonate with that. But I suppose if I was looking at the other side of the coin, DC, I'd probably choose Batman. I wouldn't want to be Superman. Totally alienated, all your family's dead, living on a planet that's sort of like adopted you, but you're impervious to everything. I like to think that my mind would not make me so cocky that I would turn and do things out of hand to the betterment of me, you know, like playing cards but being able to see all the other cards because I've got X-ray vision, or any of that sort of stuff, or my enemy knocks something out of my hands and they're eating an ice lolly, so I use my heat vision to melt their ice lolly as a revenge thing. No, I don't think I'd want to do something like that. Batman comes from a world where his family was shot dead. He then trained his body and his mind to do good, and dressed up in a dark outfit to do things in a covert way. But I liked all the gadgets. I'd like the gadgets. So I suppose Batman could be a character that you feel bad for because of the early age and the fact that he saw his parents die is a very strong emotion. For somebody who's reading it as a child, you sort of go, what would it be like if my mum and dad were gone? But you knew he was rich. He had Wayne Manor. You know what I mean? Gotham Industries, all of these big buildings and science projects he had going on and production lines and all sorts of stuff, reeling in money. He could be there for a playboy. He's very much a Tony Stark character, of Iron Man fame. So, yeah, Batman possibly. Fantastic question. I've chosen a couple there. Maybe that answers your question. Thank God Spider-Man's around. That's all I can say. And the last one is from Andy Likes Stuff channel. Good video, mate, he says. Had it in the background while I made a backpack for a Star Wars project. I'm gutted about David Lynch, rest in peace. He really was a genius. Twin Peaks for me and The Return in 2017, as well as Fire Walk with Me. Yes, some people forget about Fire Walk with Me. I didn't mention it. I still remember us all talking about Blue Velvet in drama class in secondary school, late 80s and early 90s. A true master. Yes, totally agree. That's the end of all of the stuff from comments. So we just now move very quickly into what I've watched and what I've watched of my friends. And always remember here that with my sleep deprivation, it's getting really, really hard to keep up with everybody's stuff. But I hope you don't mind what I'm going to read out. It doesn't mean that I've given up with anybody else. It's just I've got to get to you, and I will do it. It'll probably be in a big chunk when I've got some time. Sorry, I'm talking an awful lot, and it doesn't half dry my throat. Also, it's quite warm in here because I've got the heating on. But I've, not so warm that I don't need this. Oh my God. So we start off with Watched on YouTube, and we've always got my two mainstays. That's This Week in Retro and Tech Mode. This Week in Retro had the standard 3 subjects. They were trying to read it, what I put. It's got Hawking FPGA, Tell Us About the Console Wars, Grandad, and CPCP Co. I think I remember all that. Yeah, the FPGA thing was about the Mister and the 3DO that's been released this week. There's a new core for 3DO. And talking about the Mister restrictions, where it might end and where it might continue to grow. So that was a very interesting bit because I've got a Mister myself and all that. That was brilliant. Tell Us About the Console Wars, Grandad. Brilliant again. CPCP Co. Yeah, that was interesting as well. There's a lot of good articles in there. I don't want to ruin it all for you by telling you what each subject was about in there. Go and watch it. My God, that's a fantastic channel. One that is definitely doing good in the universe we live in. Say it like that. Tech Mode, a very enlightening one because it was again about a tape format that I hadn't heard of. It was called Unfinished Business with the Largest Music Carts. So these were tape carts played on 60s and 70s equipment, where the capstan shafts and all the rest of it, the heads, pulley wheels, everything. Really, really old technology. And circuit boards so large with capacitors so bloody great big huge that needed to be replaced and soldered, desoldered, and all sorts of stuff. Absolutely fun time. Really enjoyed that. That was great. But they're my two I always watch. Techmoan, This Week in Retro. So what else did I watch? Now, one of the other mainstays that I might put at the top here now is Chronologically Gaming. He's still in November 82, but he's covering so much Japan stuff that it's taking time to get through it. But my God, man, when he finishes this, he'll have played every game and he'll have catalogued it. He's got a spreadsheet that you can actually look at. You can play along yourself. It's absolutely fantastic. I can't miss it. It's every day during the week. Absolutely great. Another one I watched was Retro Pocket. And the one that was on there was top 10 best apps for cinema experience on a VR headset. I was so intrigued by my colleague, Mamemeister, friend, who basically said, should I buy a MetaQuest 3, for which I gave him the arguments to and, for and against, that I went back and saw if there were any apps that I might be missing. And I didn't know that there were so many other VR player that you could download, and each one has something a little bit different in them. So it was good to come across that. I'm still using the top 3, so I didn't need to really look at the bottom 7. But it still was fun, and I liked it. So the next channel was F4Me. F4MI. That's right, this came along because it was a review of the first gaming keyboard in the world. And believe it or not, the first gaming keyboard in the world was a Logitech G13, and the machine that's just broken on me is a Logitech G19. The 13 had a black and white display, the G19 had a colour display. They came out at the same time. That intrigued me, so I had one of the first gaming keyboards out there. This person went into all the reasons on why it was a success, which was its own scripting language for you to define macros. You could define profiles for all your games. The color screen could be used to show you maps of the world that you were traversing in games like Ultima and Guild Wars and so forth. Yes, it took me back to the days of why I loved that keyboard, why I kept it for so long. Such a shame it started to die. It's not dead, it's starting to die. I'm glad I've salvaged it. It's there. I've cleaned it. It is better since I've cleaned it. Still not 100%. It's definitely on its way, possibly because of the power supply. Yes, the keyboard has its own power supply. Maybe it's that. So I'll still keep it. You never know. Another one I watched is Movie Collector. He did a North by Northwest comparison on why, and he wanted to ask the question, why does it look so good? Yes, it's possibly one of the nicest upgrade to 4K that you'll get for North by Northwest. The HDR boosts the colour. Absolutely fantastic. Totally agreed with him on that. I watched another channel called Stam Fine. Stam Fine is not regular on my list of stuff I watch, but it's there. And he did a high definition upgrade of an earlier program he did called Randall and Hopkirk Deceased. And I love that show. So, of course, anything that Randall and Hopkirk suddenly comes up in my alert box, I'm watching. And then there was the Model Vault. And I don't know why I chose the Model Vault. It just turned up and it took my fancy. It was a review of all the Aurora model kits that came out in the 1960s and 70s. And they were model kits of just superheroes and TV. So it wasn't just Spider-Man, the Hulk, Captain America. It was also Batman and the DC line, Wonder Woman and so forth. But then TV programs like Lost in Space, The Munsters, The Addams Family, James Bond 007 was there, and a number of others. And these kits, I fondly remember them, where I had to glue them together and then paint them and all of that. It was like an Airfix kit, but it was of physical characters rather than airplanes and tanks. So, yeah, and they came with a comic if it was the superhero ones for a lot of them. So that was good. That was nice to reminisce about. So then there's my friend stuff. Here we go. I mean, it's a huge amount. I mean, my God, look at this just for Ian Hill, this whole huge block here, right? So just reading out quickly. By the way, Ian Hill's one of my best friends. His channel, he comes out, look at the stuff he comes out with. Look, here we go. Top 5 sci-fi films 2011 to 2017. Frightened City DVD review. Melancholia Blu-ray review. Doctor Who Legopolis episode review. Jonah Hex film review. X-Files Season 3 episode 7 review. And then Live With Me. My God, every day there's something there for you to watch. Marvellous. There's probably some other stuff there because he does it every day. There'll be something tonight. So, my God, brilliant. Definitely worth you having a little look at. Then there's my friend Pete, Playtendoguy, who did a Donkey Kong Country Returns Switch short. So what I mean by a short is it Steam's 1 or 2 minute video that you can do, and this time he's done Donkey Kong Country Returns for the Switch because it's the new game this week, and it's great. If you're ever thinking about getting that game, it's well worth having a look. Definitely supporter of his channel. Brilliant. Through the Lens, had to watch it this week because of some things that happened this week. So the first one is a complete unknown Oscar worthy? And the reason I say that is on point is because the Oscar nominations were this week. And so his second video that I watched were Oscar nomination reaction. So he watched the Oscar nominations and then reacted to them based on what he thought was best in regards to the nominations. So they'd read them out and he'd go, yes, that's one that I'd definitely have in there. Oh, I don't know about the others. We're a bit weird, etc., etc. Through the Lens, increasingly becoming something that I watch whenever an alert comes up in my box. Absolutely fantastic. We move on to Mondo Chelovek movies, or should I say, We Are Not Worthy. We Are Not Worthy, you horror guru, you. Absolutely marvellous. He did this Italian collection number 6 to 10, all 88 films. So on the spines it's got 6 to 11, their Italian collection, films from Italian films, part of this line of 88 films. Absolutely fantastic. Always great to see an unboxing, a discussion on them. I don't even know what they are, so of course I learn something every time I watch. That's just what you want. And then we got my old mate Jim Jam Movies, who I met last year. He did a trip out to the cinema and also an out and about around Birmingham charity shops. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Every single one of those that I watched there, couldn't fault them. Always something there that I want to watch or see. So that is everything watched on there. And we're approaching the last page. I just need to check my mother again, just very quickly. And I'll try not to do another jump cut. My God, I'm getting so terrible at this. Won't be a minute. So we move on to your YouTube, and we've got the first one, which is Down the Rabbit Hole. I always watch his channels. Absolutely got some great stuff on there. Very entertaining, very varied. That's probably why I like it so much. He did a Game Boy Advance Lady Shar, or Lady Shear. He asked the question, is it a hidden gem? He bought it at a convention and decided to play it and wanted to show it off. Yeah, why not? I haven't seen it before, so it was entertaining to watch. And he also did something that's quite popular this week that turned up in all my alerts, which was Final Fight Mega Drive. Home-based audio fixed is what it was called, because it's been going on for a while that they've done an update of the Mega Drive version of Final Fight. Just like the SNES version, you couldn't have all the features of the arcade game, so the homebrew people out there have taken the code and redone it, re-engineered it, tried to improve on, say, the colours, the speed, any slowdowns, but made it so that you had all the features, including all the levels. Very entertaining. definitely great what people can do these days. Fantastic channel, definitely worth a watch. Then you got Robert's Retro Gaming, or Canadian God, as I call him. He did, and I bought him a game, Subnautica, and he's up to episode 8. I'm so glad he's playing it. You know, I don't expect him to constantly keep going back to it. It's always fun to watch, and he's making good progress. The only thing he hasn't done yet, which I'm hoping if he continues it, is build his own habitat, where he can then build a base and go a little bit further. There's things that he's missing that gives him a great edge on later stuff that you have to do. There will be growing his own crops inside, so that he doesn't go looking for food. There's all sorts of stuff that the habitat will give you. But we'll see if there's an episode 9. You never know. Then he did his Minecraft. You can see how much he loves that. Episode 128, 129. And then he did some Atari 8-bit stuff. The stuff I saw was Powered Down, Statatos, I think it's called, and Maxtermind. I think he did some more yesterday or today that I've got to get caught up with. But just look at that. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that I've mentioned. The 7 days in a week. You can see it's almost something every day, and I'm pretty sure I'm missing 2 at least on there. So he has done something every day. And then we move on to another person that I think you ought to subscribe to, Steve's Gaming, and he reached 400 subs this week. Absolutely fantastic achievement. He's had some problems and has had to go away sometimes for months, and still he's more with subs than I am. So what can I say? A very likable bloke, says it how it is. He's got a catchphrase that he uses now. I don't know if he's recognised this, but his catchphrase in the games that he plays is "suck on this," and kills the creatures. It's absolutely marvellous. It's a good job I don't have a drinking game on that. I'll be pissed. But anyway, what he's been playing is that he's been playing a game called Scrap Mechanic Part 1 to 3. Not my type of game, but thoroughly entertaining to watch. Roguecraft, which was an Amiga game. It's attempt 2 because he thought that his first attempt at it wasn't good enough. Home Soft episodes 29 to 31. He missed one, had to go back, but he did 3 this week. BBC Games Not Played Part 7. My God, he's got no end of games he ain't played on that. My God. A Look at Everspace, which is a game I bought him at Christmas, which was very nice of him to actually show and present. Now, he didn't like the game. That's fine. Do you know what I mean? It was my idea to give him, well, not only his Christmas present, but I wanted to give him some game to play on his machine while he was in a bad state. And I chose a space game. And it wasn't to his liking, but he was worried about actually doing it because he thought it'd upset me. He would never upset me. My God, I can only guess what he'd like, and he loves space. So it was a price of a pint. I think the game was $1.99, but back in the day, it was a £30 game. So I thought for $1.99, if he doesn't like it, who gives a shit? To be quite honest. He didn't get past the tutorial, which is, the tutorial is very much a lead by the nose, you know, where you put a stirrup on a horse and you lead it through the tutorial. And that's something that he definitely didn't like. If he continues, that'd be great, but he won't go back to it, I'm sure. For me, I'm glad it put a smile on his face and he got a video out of it. Brilliant. That's all I could ever wish for. He then started a new series called Eden Ring. Now, that's a game that I ummed and ahed about buying for absolutely ages, and I just never got round to buying it. So it's nice to see how it plays. The trouble is, I know that there's a game coming out very similar to it, February 18th this year. I told him what the title of it was. I can't remember even now. In fact, I'll look it up. Because somebody else asked a question. I think it was Frank Holder who asked a question, right? And I did mention to him in a text what the game was called. Let me see if I can find it. Just trying to find it. I talk to him so much, so... Ah, here we go. It's called Avowed. Avowed. And it's out February 18th. And it's one of those games that I'm looking at, but I'm looking forward more to Kingdom Come Deliverance more than that game. So there's a couple of series that I might be doing in the future. Avowed. There you go. Frank Holder, I hope that gives you what the game was. So that's great. Did I finish what he had actually done? Eden Ring he was doing. Yeah, he's up to part 2 of doing that, so that's brilliant. And he did a Spectrum game called Cyclus, which was, I think, part of a price game that he bought. He bought for charity a load of Spectrum games that had about 16 in it. And I think that was one that he chose to do. Brilliant channel. Definitely worth a watch. He's too good. Bastard. I hate him. He's little shit. That's Facebook telling me something. So please go and even though he's a little shit. And he knows I'm kidding. And we come to Colin Jones, aka Ponder. He did a vlog, number 81. So his new blog for the year is out. That was absolutely wonderful. Love that. Please go and watch that. I couldn't go over to every subject he ever covered. He covers as much subjects as I do, and he can do it in 20 minutes. I can't do it in 2 hours, let alone 20 minutes. And he showed the Elite VIC-20 gameplay. So Elite has been ported over to the VIC-20. It's one that I've been champion for the last 2 weeks. He's actually downloaded a copy of the game, played it. I probably would have got around to doing that myself, but it's nice that my friend did it. I think he did it better than I would do, so that was no harm. And then Mamemeister, he did a live at the end of last week of Centipede games and clones, and then he did a waffle with me on Friday, and then did a bad games stream last night, which he had a few technical hitches with, and I was so glad to help him sort them out. They weren't Windows problems, it was a USB issue. It's just a lot of changes were made to his machine in one go. Some of them were counteracting other things, and to be quite honest, it turned out to be quite easy to fix. Unfortunately, it did take an hour away from his stream. A shame. But I think he's going to do another one tonight. And that, by the way, is the end of the blog. I hope you've enjoyed that. There's just some stuff to show you, really. And then the trailers. The good old trailers. Not so much to show you because we're still early on and I haven't watched too much. But we're going to overhead cam. Look, you can see my hands. You need hands. Anyway, what's come this week? We've got the TV series from Marvel called Loki. It's season 2. Not everybody's cup of tea, this one. It's a steel book. It's lovely and gorgeous. Nice to see physical media still being done. Absolutely great. Then we got a film. It's another steel book, Smile 2. Obviously the second one in the series, although there was a prequel to Smile that started all this off. It's a very intriguing, very interesting film. Not to everybody's taste. I enjoyed it when I saw it. I saw it last year. I liked it. Mixed reviews, but definitely an intriguing watch and worth your attention. This is an old one, this next one. It's The Gift by Sam Raimi. I'm a big Sam Raimi film. This one wasn't his crowning glory by a long way, but it was a nice sort of like feel to it. You know, it's in a town. It's a psychological thing. You can see how many extras there are there. I'll see if I can keep it in shot for you so you can freeze frame. It's the 4K edition. It's Arrow. Comes in a nice slipcase, as you can see. No steel book, but happy to have that in my collection. Now we've got some stuff that I bought in a charity shop, and they weren't. One was £2 and the other one was £1. This one was already, this next one, it was already in my collection, but the disc to the original set had some skipping. So when I saw this on the shelf in a charity shop on Wednesday, when I went to work in the town that I work in, it was in the Heart Society charity shop. £2, I had to buy it. It was The World at War, the Ultimate Restored Edition. It's the 11-disc version, but it is the DVD, not the Blu-ray. If I could afford the Blu-ray, I would. It's 50-odd quid. But The World at War is definitely something from my childhood. It was a documentary watched by millions, which is strange because it's at a time where documentaries are not really watched by many people. You know, Panorama, Wicker's World, they were all shows that people watched, but they were highbrow and nobody really watched them. This was on at something like 7:30 at night on a channel, an hour long, talking about the war, split up into 11 episodes. They've gone back to it, restored it. The DVD version, I think, is very well done. I'd still like the Blu-ray, but £2. £2. What can I say about that? £2. My God, couldn't miss that just to replace my set. And this is something I didn't even know was out, and it was £1. My God. It is called The Hollow Crown. You can see there the people that are in it. There is Ben Whishaw, Jeremy Irons, Tom Hiddleston. If you haven't noticed, one of those is a Marvel character. He's Loki. This is all about Richard II, Henry IV, and Henry V. So we're talking before the Tudors. So we're talking Agincourt and so forth. Absolutely marvellous. There is, how long on this? Usually gives you a running time. 8 hours and 25 minutes of historical drama. Of a period that I don't know so much of, because I followed the Tudors more than anything. You know, Henry VIII, Elizabeth I, all of that. So a good amount of stuff there. Go back to the new camera, just to say I'm now going to set up the media view so that you can watch some trailers of some of that. Maybe it will encourage you to watch some stuff. So I'm just going to pause, get the media ready, and we'll be there. Won't be a moment. Okay, I'm ready to go. I've got it all sorted out. So let's move to media playback. There you are. You can see I've got it all going. And I'll turn the mic off and you can watch some trailers. Hope you enjoy them.
Seen by millions when it was first shown on UK peak time television in 1973, and since then seen continuously across the world, The World at War has been one of television's most watched documentary series. Fremantle Media and iFrame have used state-of-the-art technology to bring it to a new public in high-definition picture and surround sound.
World at War is the definitive collection of documentaries regarding the Second World War, as far as we're concerned. What we were challenged with was making sure that it looked as good as possible now that Blu-ray is in the market.
Every single shot is graded and analysed to within an inch of its life to get the very most out of it. So we go through a huge process of trying to make everything fit together a little bit better. And certainly on this project, there's been a couple of times where everyone's just gone, wow, you know, like they're going, oh, I've never looked at it that way before.
The World at War, if you can imagine it, it's literally been filmed in combat scenarios all over the world, different environments, different humidities. You've got shots from the early 1900s right through to the late periods of the war, and it ranges from old black and white to colour footage. Also, it's a mix of different standards of film as well. So the problem here is then that you not only have to deal with 16mm grain, you've got to deal with the original 35mm grain as well. We're kind of keeping faith with the original programme as much as possible. We only really want to remove marks that are distracting to the viewer. We want to focus on people. When you're going through the archive footage, you realise that these are real people, this is really happening.
Meanwhile, the world at war is undergoing audio restoration.
I'm bringing both monophiles in, restoring them, removing all the high-frequency noise, crackles, clicks, pops, all the artifacts to create a restored full mix, to then work from to create 5.1 surround sound.
After 2 years of tests, teams of people, groundbreaking techniques, and tremendous dedication, The World at War is ready to be enjoyed in newly restored high definition, to be experienced as you've never seen it before.
In a small southern town.
Oh, I got some, Mama, but I like it.
I ain't got any left, though.
In the quiet heart of Hatcher County.
It's about this time last year his daddy passed away. He's still real messed up over it.
There are no strangers.
You're not that Wilson is a fortune teller, are you?
I don't call myself that.
You think we'll live happily ever after?
There are no secrets.
What's the matter? You see something bad?
And the only thing more unusual than a disappearance.
We got to the end of the road in our investigation. We looked under every rock there's to look under.
Is there anything you can tell us at all?
Is that the only witness wasn't even there.
I could read for you. What I'm seeing, a split rail fence and a pond. I can smell flowers.
You learn to leave folks alone.
Can you see what I'm thinking? Can you see that in the cards? There's something bad wrong with me.
If I go with that. The real danger begins if someone starts worrying that you're going to have another one of your dreams.
Academy Award nominee Cate Blanchett, Giovanni Ribisi, Keanu Reeves, Katie Holmes, with Academy Award nominee Greg Kinnear and Academy Award winner Hilary Swank.
I got a warning today. I think somebody's gonna try and kill me.
Messing with the devil's gonna get you burned.
The Gift, from director Sam Raimi.
I need you to listen to me. Something really bad happened. You remember Louis Fergoli from high school? I went to his apartment. But when I showed up... Louis?
No, get away from me! What?
He was smiling at me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sky Riley. You are in the middle of a big world tour.
You okay? I keep seeing this face everywhere.
This thing is a parasite. You witnessed a death. Now it's latched onto you.
911, what's your emergency?
I've traced the string of deaths to you. Nobody has survived longer than a week.
Sky, pull it together and get back out there.
No, I will not let this thing use me. How do we stop it?
We need to kill you first.
What?
We have to end it. No matter what. You're not in control. I am.
I need to stop don't know how.
This is the way the world works. There's people in control, and there's people that listen. I'm the guy you listen to.
It's the
Ethan, today is a day that you're going to remember for a very long time, but if you handle it right, you're going to have a chance to forget it. Who are you? Knowing won't change anything, and I hope I don't have to execute someone close to you to prove it. One bag for one life. You got 10 minutes before everybody in this airport dies. All you have to do is nothing.
There we go. Just some trailers there for you, with one that's not on physical media yet called Carry On, which I really enjoyed. It's on Netflix. So I thought I'd add that in there. And that's it, really. Hope you enjoyed the blog. Got a little bit of a join to do because I hit the wrong button. But I've had a great week. And I hope you had some enjoyment just listening to some of the rubbish that's happened to me this week. It's sort of like a nosy view into my life. But I love doing these. And I hope you've got some fun listening to it. Until next week, then, I'll say salute. And thanks to everybody who's for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.